They've played a lot of blends. They played the most recent Starlighter that was in Bucharest, where they had some decent results.
Yeah, they played pretty well there, I thought.
So I definitely would have thought that they would perform better than this. Mushi, I think, has done a couple questionable things in terms of skill build and their kind of play style. They don't always seem to be on the same page from the games that I've watched, which has been the source of their downfall, where sometimes Mushi will go for more of a defensive build. That Wind Ranger game where he went no power shot against the Viper is a great example. Sure, it's great in the lane. You're not spamming power shot against the Viper, but once you need to start moving around, controlling runes, you just have no damage. That's a small example, but one where it seemed like they weren't all on the same page. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what to make out of their poor performance, to be perfectly honest.
Well, looking at this game, it's kind of similar to some of the other tournaments or some of the other matches we've seen. Not so much a complexity game, but it seems like they really have strat diversity, at least, because this game they opened up with an August Iron. So it seems like they have like 3 pretty consistent ones. They've got like their SF mid with a Sven or other carry and a lot of roaming, or they did a Wisp one game, which was kind of an alteration of that build or of that game, and now they are going with a Darkseer in a first pick role. So this could be a carry. This could also be a support. They also pick up the Lina, and like the lanes are really hard to predict now because the Naga's played as support or carry. Lina's played as a mid, as a carry, as a support, can be played by all 3 by complexity, and they grab a Darkseer in addition on top of that, and it's kind of hard to predict what they're going to do. I don't even know, and I just watched a bunch of complexity games.
Yeah, I mean, even with the Darkseer, you think, well, okay, that's their off laner, but twice in that last series, 2 out of 2, they went aggro try with Moon in the safe lane, first on the Centaur, second game on the Darkseer. So a lot of flexibility with how they want to play this. Could be Fly on the Lina, could be Swindle Melons on the Lina taking it mid, and same for that Naga, as you talked about. So certainly their comfort zone with these 3 heroes. I feel like we've been seeing a lot more Naga bans since the first couple days of the tournament. Even on day 2 when we casted the kind of mini round robin between VP Empire and CDEC, Naga Siren seemed to be the key support in all of those games. When she was in, she had a huge impact, and when she was banned out, it was almost like watching a different set. Yeah. So not surprised to see Complexity prioritize her if she's left in the pool.
And that's one of the things that I think Complexity has a huge advantage towards is, like what I said before, with their varying strats, they're not just relying on those top 2 heroes to win every game. Like the best hero, maybe the most competitive heroes that they picked in the previous matches were like Shadow Fiend and Lina. And no team is really piggybacking on those to be their end-all and be-all best hero. Like, most teams are going for Dazzle and Gyrocopter, maybe a Bloodseeker, or Naga Siren a lot, like VP and Empire really relying on Naga Siren to play well. And now Complexity has all these different strats that they can use, and assuming they can execute their Naga right, last time they played it, it seemed a bit weak. They'll have like much bigger strategy options than their opponents, which should give them the ability to outpick as well. So I feel like their chances going into the later stages of TI are very good here.
Yeah, absolutely. Be really crazy if they win that first round of the upper bracket, the main event. They are in great shape, and that is truly an underdog story at that point. I don't think anybody would have that's hyperbole. Most people would not have expected them to go that far throughout the bracket. But here, speaking of that point, even more so, another change of pace from what we saw in the series prior. The Bone Fletcher, Mr. Clinks, picked up 4th for Complexity, probably for Ziz.
And he usually does play a bit more roaming carries, so I think this is a fine, appropriate hero. Haven't seen them play this yet. It's also entirely possible that they're not trying very seriously this game, and that's something that we should honestly consider.
This could be a time to experiment. If they had heroes that they wanted to try out, see how they fare, this is really the time to do it.
Yeah, they need to get at least 1 win here to guarantee 3rd place in their group, to get an advantage of points over Cloud9. So I think it's worth doing that here, but I don't think it's worth revealing any more strats that may be new. So if they lose this game, I don't think it's that big of a deal at all because they're still top 4. Because again, the 3rd versus 4th place position, I think is based on the other side of the bracket's picks. So I think
the top of each group gets to pick between, I think, 3rd and 4th of the other group.
So that means they're going to either play against CDEC or whoever finishes 2nd in Group E, which we're not right now. It shows as Evil Geniuses. I'm quite sure CDEC is going to finish top of their group because they still have 2 games to play and they're by far the clear advantage person or team. But
EG and CDEC are squaring off during this heat right now on the mainstream.
Okay.
I believe. So
I think they're the last game, the last set of the day. At least they were before.
Yeah, you're correct. Actually, you're right. They're in the heat after this. That's my
So
mistake.
there's a lot of things to go in to look into this. Maybe Complexity is throwing maybe their tier 2 strat, trying out the anti-Undying strategy. Maybe they're trying to, do they show weak here because they want to, I would assume you want to be as strong as possible. Show yourself as strong as possible. That way the better team of the two in Group B don't pick you. So I think there's advantage for that, as long as they're not afraid to show strats. And honestly, they have so many strats, I don't think that's something they have to worry about. So I think they should just go all for it, try to take your win, keep your morale up, and keep your synergy up, and just keep grinding through the games.
Yeah. Well, at this point, it looks like Complexity will be playing the support Naga Siren with Ember Spirit as their final pickup. We'll see who's playing what here. Maybe it's Swindle on the Ember mid, Ziz on the Clink safe lane, and Moon Meander off lane on the Darkseer. Time will tell. For Fnatic, well, they've got plenty of time to think about this final pick. They'll need their mid laner here for Mushi. And he goes with Zeus. All right, the Thunder God to round things out. Interesting drop from Fnatic. Lacking on control. They've got some good team fighters, but the Earthshaker is their only lockdown.
You could kind of think of Tombstone as that, but it is going to be a support Undying with Johnny playing that. So
a 5 at that. Johnny plays super sacrificial 5 in most games.
Even more than a Dazzle, really?
Often,
I feel like as an Undying, you need at least a little bit of farm to be useful.
Yeah, then that's kind of the point that I'm making. Like, with their breakdown, he is he's down there with like FNG in terms of farm distribution.
Wow.
They play a true 5 and a true 4 rather than 2 4.5. So it's interesting to see him taking the Undying rather than the Dazzle.
Yeah, interesting, definitely. Ember Spear pick for Complexity, very good versus PL. So I think that's a good last pick. This almost means for sure we're gonna have a lead in support and an Naga support. Especially with Ziz on Clink. So Ziz, it'll be a mid-Ember versus a Zeus, which I think is a decent... It's pretty good for Zeus, I think. It's good for both. I would say
I haven't seen that matchup too much.
The Zeus is easier to gank, I feel, because he can't escape very well. But at the same time, you can kill Flame Guard very, very easily with Zeus.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. And he can get rid of the Flame Guard, but at the same time, I don't know. I think it does come down to rotations more than just that heads-up match.
And interestingly, he actually goes for a Stout Shield Star. We don't see that very often in mid-heroes, but it will block a lot of the damage that Zeus does try to throw out, and he's got a Magic Stick, so it basically means that Ember Spirit, I feel like, should be able to lane this as aggressively as he wants to. The only downside is he can't just consistently farm with Flame Guard, because Zeus does so much magic damage that he will be able to break that, and that's the main damage source of Ember Spirit. So I think it'll be an okay matchup for both, honestly. They'll probably just passively farm is the way to go. And we'll see if that ends up being the case.
Okay, so it is a core shaker here. It looks like Ohio is the off-lane player. He'll take the Earth Shaker. Johnny on the Undying. A 2-1-2 from Fnatic. Mushi mid on the Zeus. No surprise there. Kechi Gimba, he'll be on the Shadow Priest Dazzle, and that leaves KYXY on the safe lane Phantom Lancer.
So the large camp is blocked. This is from the Dire lane, actually. And this may seem a little weird, like why would they block their own large camp? But that's because the Radiant offlane has an advantage by being able to do side pulls. So if they block that with the Sentry, those first couple levels aren't there, and there's no way for Complexity's Moon Meander to grab extra levels. And especially with the Darkseer, it's extra scary, because he just throws an Iron Shell on a creep, and oftentimes he can clear that whole wave, and sometimes the neutrals.
Yeah. And how will Complexity lane this? Did they do a 2-1-2 themselves? It seems so. Z-Freak going in, pokes them with an early Riptide. He'll be joined by Moon Meander here in the off lane. And for now, Fly's lingering around mid on the Lina. We'll probably see him spend most of his time down bottom supporting Ziz, but already looking to pressure Mushi if they can. Fly hasn't skilled anything up quite yet, but we'll just head right up to the high ground, gets the LSA, and they're going to make Mushi's life very difficult here.
This is especially hard because he only had 2 shared tangos, so Mushi can't even trade hits, and they have the same armor, they have about the same HP, and Lina hits slightly harder, so not a good trade for Mushi there, and just really happy for Swindlemon, so he's able to get 3 of those CS. So
he does already get a kill with the Arc Lightning, though, so his bottle is on the way out. It's not all bad for the Zeus.
Definitely a little bit better there. He's actually, is he going to be able to snipe this courier? He knows, if he actually went straight for it, he had a chance maybe, but Mushi backed up a little bit and received the bottle. So bottle's out, and now Fly is, I don't know, I feel like he might as well just go back to the safe lane. Yeah. So this is being completely zoned here by Johnny on the Undying. Like, he just casted a triple decay. He can't trade hits. Ziz has maximum 245 HP. That's like a 5-hit. So they definitely need Fly to get back to the bot lane and help zone.
Definitely. Up top, we're seeing a lot of damage exchanging with the Dazzle here. They can heal through some of that Ion Shell damage, but this is a decent dual lane, even though it's both melee, Darkseer and Naga Siren. Very tanky early on. Pretty high armor across both of them, starting with 6. And they can put out a lot of harassment across the Riptide spam as well as all that Ion Shell damage. So not the easiest lane for PL to find farm, even though he is 5-0 already.
How often do you see like a free farm Earthshaker? It's so weird.
Not very often.
But it's done with the purpose of limiting the Clinks' farm, not as much guaranteeing the Earthshakers. But I'm sure Earthshaker's really happy about this too. And he's even got an early Stout Shield, something that we never see on an Earthshaker, but great against Alina as well as a Clinks. So I think the lane setup worked out a bit better for Fnatic here, because the carry got almost no farm. The Clinks at 2 CS, just hitting 3 now. Barely any farm in comparison to the mid, where Zeus is still doing fine at 10. So slightly disadvantageous lane setup there.
Mm-hmm. So, Ketchikimba here just trying to pull if he can. Moon Meander being an irritant, giving Naga some space in the lane to absorb some XP. I think Complexity have plenty of tools to deal with the Phantom Lancer this game. Oh, hold that thought. Ziz possibly in some trouble here. They've already got a Sentry Ward down, so he does need to be careful. LSA from Fly is on point, and they are laying in some damage. Those Searing Arrows starting to add up. Fissure almost. If he was on the other side of it, I think he's certainly dead there.
And a Magic Wand there to use at the perfect time by Ziz, and the last Decay does not get the kill. Johnny is actually quite limited on mana here.
Up top, Ketchikimba could be in trouble. He's gone for this greedy build, didn't skill Grave, but I don't think they know it. If they had that intel, Moon would have been much more tempted to dive that one.
I feel like they could have figured that out because he's only level 2, and they probably saw the Poison Touch come out.
Maybe he did use it. Maybe he just didn't want to dive it. Would have been a very close call, though.
Yeah, he very likely would have died afterwards. KOXY taking a lot of damage, opted for the early Ring of Regen. I'm going to assume this is building into something like a Vlad's, perhaps. The early Vlad's build is a possibility for PL, but it doesn't really build into a whole lot else that he's going to want. He doesn't want Tranquils. So Soul Ring, maybe. Probably a Vlad's, though.
Soul Ring PL could be a possibility. You see it on occasion. Not sure if it's the best investment early on for him.
He could also just sell this Ring of Regen at some point, because he definitely needs some extra regen against the Iron Shell that he's taking so much damage from.
Yeah. Never ideal to sell items back, but that is definitely an underrated strategy if you can pick up just a casual cloak or a casual ring like that. It's a pretty small investment, and you can get 50% back.